Hey guys, it's Todd here. Been having a lot of people ask me about different things that are set up on, or how I have different things set up on the Gaui NX4. So I have it tore down for some rebuild, and it's kind of a good point. I can show off what some of the things I've done. One of the first things is using the Align T filter. These things are great. You can see the fuel flow, you can see bubble flow, so it really gives you a good idea what's actually going on. One thing I did, and I don't know if you can see it real well, but I routed the main tank fuel line back through the brace and back up around. It gives really good clearance for the push rod for the tail boom, because that sits right through here like that, and that way you don't have your lines rubbing on your push rod, and just really kind of makes for a cleaner install. I have the lead going into the carb. Light isn't showing it real well, but I have the lead going into the carb a little shorter than I'd like, but other than that, this setup seems to work really well. I may swap the lead and the fuel plug, or the fill line, later, but I'm kind of happy with how it's set up now. One of the other bigger things I've done, not really bigger, but it makes things a lot easier, is I'm using the Gaui remote igniter, and I swapped out the alligator clip on the end for a 90-degree airplane style glow lead. What this does is it gives me a more positive lock, and I know on the original alligator clip lead that arced at one point, and I was just having all sorts of problems with it falling off. The other half of that lead, had it right here. Oh man, right here. The other part of that lead is basically just looks like the top of a glow plug. Like I said, these are generally for airplanes, but I needed to, on this one, I needed to actually cut, and you can see where I've done this. I get in the camera. I needed to cut the boot actually to get it to fit correctly. It was just a little bit too deep with the OS37, and I couldn't get a good positive lock on the plug. One thing I did need to do when I did this is I needed to clearance the fan shroud. Try to get a good shot here with some light. A little bit down below where the glow plug fits, so I could actually connect it in and get it to sit in there right. It works out really well now, but it was kind of a pain initially. That's kind of one of the bigger things, and that made a huge difference with starting and keeping things running. I'm really been happy with that. Another thing I did do is I actually boiled and dyed, and my dye came out a little dark, but boiled and dyed the initial Gaui struts. I was having a really bad problem with breakage on the struts. I'm not exactly the softest landing person in the world, and just broke the struts a lot. You see now they can take quite a bit of abuse and bending without actually breaking, and they definitely hold up a lot better. They don't break, they're not too light, so they don't flatten out. One spot that does concern me is right here where the casting mark is. There's a little bit of swirl, and I matched it up with some of the broken struts I had, and that is actually where it broke. So now I get a good bend even through that section without breaking them. So I'm very happy with that. Other than that, those are kind of my bigger ones. I was talking to a couple of friends the other night. You do have to be careful with the main shaft bearings. They seem to be really... Okay, so back into this. The main shaft bearings, if you hit something like, with me hitting a tree or something else like that, they do give up pretty easily. You can find them relatively cheap through several vendors. This set I actually bought through A-Main, and I think it was that tube, it's pretty cheap. It's the ProTech RC, very good bearings. Had good luck with them. They feel really, really smooth, and they've actually held up better than the Bocas that I had to get the first time. Been very, very happy with those. the other mods I've done. I'm going to go with the Spectrum. I'm going to go with the Spectrum sensor for the RPM counter. And I don't know if you can see in here very well. Down a good angle. But there is some clearancing that needs to be done on the back side of the motor. You have to take a little bit of the webbing out to actually get the sensor down in there. Structurally, it's held up really well. I haven't had any issues. Been very happy with performance on this helicopter. It's, the power is great. Still running a little bit rich. With it getting colder here, I think I need to go about another quarter turn leaner on the actual carburetor tuning. It's just, change temperature. It's a nitro. That's what they do. A couple other things I really I've been really happy with is the Spartan Vortex. I've been running this on the NX4 since I got it. I know there's been some people that have complained about the price or whatnot with it, but the unit has been solid for me. I haven't had any issues with the tumbling or anything else. The only time I did have any issues, it was actually a main shaft bearing going out, and it was just feeding a ton of vibration in. And all it really did is made the helicopter feel loose, and it did have a little bit of a tail bounce to it. And it wasn't that much. I mean, it was just a tick when you're trying to hold it steady. Other than that, really easy to set up, and when I get this put back together this weekend and get ready, I'll actually go through and do a setup video for the Vortex. Been very happy. Oh, one other thing I do remember doing here is you can see on the header tank, I actually have bracing here, and here, just zip ties. It moves around a little more than I like. The plastic, you can see here, the plastic up here gets rounded out, and it just moves a little bit more than I'd like. So I tie that down to the fuel tank brace. That makes for a really solid mount. It doesn't bounce up and down like it used to. It doesn't move around too badly. Even when you see it's loose on the oops, sorry, you can see it's loose up here, and it's still it doesn't move up and down. That's my bigger concern is changing the pitch on it while in flight. And it seems to be pretty stable. It's pretty steady. Haven't had any issues with vibrations or anything else in that. No foaming. No other issues. Other than that, I've been very, very happy with the helicopter. Everything else seems to be working out really nicely. I generally don't fly canopy, but I do actually leave, so you can see them here, I do actually leave the cotter pins in here. In hover, they're a really good indicator. If they're pretty steady, then you're doing good. If they're flopping all over the place, going crazy, and they'll bounce like crazy. You can definitely tell you have a vibration that you wouldn't normally see. It is a nitro. There is some vibration no matter what happens, but it holds up really well, and it shows really a good indicator of what's going on with your helicopter. Anything else that we got here? Had to replace a few screws here and there. Generally think the kit screws are a little softer than I'd like, but it's generally not an issue. I bought this used, and the previous owner used quite a bit of Loctite, so between heat and everything else, I've had to slot a few screws. Replacing those with Protect screws. They have, in the NX4 section, they actually have, on A-main, they have all the screws you need to replace everything. And they're a little bit stiffer screw, really high quality. Just been very, very happy with everything. As far as gearing, the thing I've stripped out so far has been the front umbrella gear. Back up in here, I've stripped that out when I hit the tree and bounced off another tree and this, that, and the other. Pretty easy to get into, replace. Snap tail boom off in the same crash. Again, very easy and easy to replace. I think that's all I got for now, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me and ask, or hit me up on Facebook. Thanks. Talk to you soon. One more thing, and I just thought of this. This originally came with a Castle Creations 10 amp BEC. I went to a brushless servo. Unfortunately, it's not a high voltage, so I actually have to maintain a BEC just to make sure I don't burn my servos up. But it came with a 10 amp Castle, and I was actually able to get it to reset just by doing cyclic hops and just sitting on the ground. And I could bump the cyclic with a little bit of rudder input, and they'd crash out. So I went upgraded it to Back Pro. I would say 15 amp minimum on this. So you can go with the CC Back Pro. You can go with a Hercules. You can go with anything else. Just make sure you have right around 15 amps coming through this. I just think 10 is not enough for much bigger than 450. Like I said, I was able to just get it stall out completely. I will be shooting more videos as I get it put together, and we'll go through a Spartan Vortex setup video once I get everything put back together. Other than that, I think this is all I got for y'all. Thanks. See you soon.